Hello and welcome to this Kiss Keep It Simple Starseeds video. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. And if you have seen these videos before, welcome back. I just wanted to kind of give a little brief introduction, just in case you haven't seen these videos before. I haven't done a Kiss Keep It Simple Starseed video in quite a while, and I'm excited because it's important, I think, to just share some basic ascension tools that maybe you can throw in your toolbox, or just to shed a little light from my own higher guidance team perspective to assist in the collective. And so all of these videos are made with the intention of raising the frequency with one another and on Mother Earth. And so this is more of a simple way that I'm making it my intention to show how everything is tied together. Synchronicities in and around the career paths that we are on. And I'm going to mostly focus on careers, jobs, professions, and so on and so forth. Perhaps touch a brief amount on abundance, but we'll see how that goes. So I just want to back up and also kind of give you guys a fair warning that I'm in flow when I do these. So sometimes I go off on a tangent. I'll do my best to stay linear in a non-linear way. But when we're dealing with multidimensional conversations, it isn't always point A to point B to get to point C. Oftentimes we jump around and eventually comes back full circle to tie everything in together. Because, and that kind of leads me into where I'm going with this. So there are a lot of people that are waking up, and what I'm feeling is there's a common denominator in the sessions that I've had with people, and also what I'm seeing in general in the collective, and a lot of the messages that have been coming through from my higher guidance team about where many people in the collective are at. So I'm going to focus primarily on the, like I said, the job, I think I said it, profession and career area. So people are awake or waking up, and they're feeling maybe perhaps stagnant in their current career choice, or perhaps they are, and they're not sure why. Sometimes people are getting that itch to move on to another career path. They don't know where to go or what to do. Then there's another group of people who kind of have an inkling about where they would like to go, but they don't know how to get there. And I'd say the biggest one that I've been seeing in the beautiful beings I've been working with are, they kind of know what they want to do. But a lot of things that are coming through are self-doubt and insecurity. And I say this with love because I have those moments too. And I understand. And I want to just kind of talk about how everything's tied together. And one of the biggest messages that have been coming through for me, so I'm going to back up. This is not a light language video necessarily. So if you're looking for a light language video, you'll have to watch one of the other videos. This is more of a keep it simple starseed. We're all starseeds. We're all here together as a unified collective from different places, different backgrounds, but we're all made up of the stuff of stars. We've all got the chemicals in our body that is made up of stars. And so essentially many of us are on different paths, but we're waking up to this feeling that there's something bigger that we're supposed to be doing. And so you know who you are. Now, I want to start with some basic, talking about some basic jobs. And so what a lot of us are feeling that are in an industry of, let's say, I've written all kinds of things up here, and you might want to screenshot it and then zoom in. So hopefully you can hear me okay. A lot of stuff here, and I'm just trying to tie it together because what a lot of people have been sharing with me is that they feel like they're supposed to be doing something else, and so they're really uncomfortable in the career that they've chosen in this timeline. And I want to share from one perspective that it doesn't necessarily mean you have to jump ship. There are other options. And I want to start there, and then I'll branch out from that space. So I also want to say that sometimes it is important for us to jump ship. and move forward. If you're getting that boost, you know you're not supposed to be doing what you're doing, you know you're being called to something else, and you have that lined up, then that's a different story, and that I might save till the end. This is more for those who are kind of in the beginning stages or the middle stages of this. So first, I just want to point out by saying that if you're someplace and you feel stifled, you're really unhappy and you're really miserable, and you feel like you just have to stay there because of the money, that's a whole other ball of wax. That isn't exactly what I'm addressing today. We are being invited to shift our perspective. If you are unable to shift your perspective where you are currently working, doing what you're doing, and you're so miserable that it's affecting everything in your life in a negative way, then it may be time for you to jump ship and move on. Now, of course, there is that idea that you have to have a backup plan, and I'm not saying quit your job, move on. All I'm saying is pay attention to your feelings. Why are you unhappy? Now, oftentimes we can really, if you're doing something like, let's say, animal testing, or you're, doing something that is morally or ethically, I don't know if disparaging is the right word. Of course, that is something I would highly suggest in this new age is not going to be supported by the new energies, and that's probably part of the reason you're so unhappy or uncomfortable. If it's questionable, that's probably another reason why you're unhappy or uncomfortable. So that's a whole other, again, topic. And it's important to go within your heart right now and to really ask yourself, am I where I can be of the highest service? So if you get a huge no on that and you're just very, very sad about it, then that's a good sign or signal for you to start asking the universe, your higher guidance team, where can I be of the most service, and where, how, what can I be doing to be completely supported by the universe financially. And I say this in session work all the time with people because this is one of the mantras that I use. You will get answers if you're open to those answers. If you're in a tunnel, and I see it as like a drain, and you're stuck, and you're spinning your wheels, and you're in a space of, I can't leave because of this. I'm stuck here because of this. I don't have a choice because of, that again is a whole other conversation, and that would be for a one-on-one session work. I would suggest focus on yourself. That's important because those are all words that you are drawing into your reality. That's another video entirely. This is more for those people looking at a broader perspective. So I just want to start by kind of going into some examples of how everything is tied together. And I also want to lead into synchronicity and how synchronicity works in bringing us where we need to be when we need to be there. I'll end with that synchronicity. So the first thing, I want to go backwards and talk about being present and recognizing that even if you work in a bank, and I'm using that as an example, and you're not happy working in a bank, can sometimes, wherever you're at and you're not happy there, it can be thought of as a temporary placement to bring you to your next temporary placement. Nothing is permanent. We are always growing and expanding if we are allowing ourselves to. And sometimes the place that we are most of the time is exactly where we need to be. I know there's a lot of people out there that are going, I've been here so long, how do I get out of this space? Or I can see where I want to go, I just can't figure out how to get there. That's kind of where I'm going with this. So if you work at a bank, for an example, you might be there because you've got a family to support, you've got bills to pay, and you're in a position where you're unable to really make a change right in this moment. So the first answer I would have to the question of how do I be of service is that's what you ask the universe before you go to work every day. You know and see your placement in your field as temporary, and you recognize that you've got growth, and this is not necessarily where you want to grow. Now, you may decide later that you are able to grow and thrive in that environment if you are able to see your environment from a different perspective. So I'm using a bank as an example, because let's say you're a teller at a bank and you're there and you're having conversations with people and you are upset because you're working for a large conglomerate that is just really taking money from people. You could also look at it from another perspective and say, I'm meeting a lot of really amazing people who I can have an impact on just by making contact with them and sending out love from my heart space. That might be enough for you in this now moment to change your perspective. So, changing how you perceive the situation that you're in, coming from the heart, and asking how you may be of service in that moment to the people you are interacting with is the first step. And just by doing that, may in of itself lead you to your next temporary place. Perhaps because you do that, you shift your vibration. And you are then, instead of blocking and feeling like you're stuck with this cloud over you, like the character from Charlie Brown. I don't know if it's Linus. It's not Linus. It's the Pigpen. I've showed a picture of him before with the flies all around. You're going to be drawing people to your, let's say, booth that are meant to have a conversation with you. And maybe you can have an impact on them or they can have an impact on you. And there's an exchange of energy happening, which in itself is an activation. So from one perspective, you're being activated and you're activating others by opening up to the potential that you're here for a reason and that this is just a temporary placement to then take you to your next space where you will be able to blossom. And because you've shifted that energy around your space, you will then draw in those people that are supposed to be drawn into your world, perhaps your soul group. And in doing that, your job then becomes more of an expansion of you, even if it's just handling money. This becomes more of the word experiment is what's coming through. And I'm being led to say it's an experiment in an experience to then bring in the higher information that is waiting to come through whichever form it needs to come through. And it will come in the form of somebody having a conversation with you and synchronicities, which we'll get to the end. By you shifting your vibration, and I'm going to go into synchronicity actually right now. So the first aspect is by you shifting your vibration and being in that space of how can I be of service now and how can I share my energy with others in a heartfelt way will then bring you those answers. You may then be noticed by your coworkers or perhaps your manager who will then say, I really like the energy of this person, not even understanding why, and say, I'd like to give this person a promotion. I think that they would be well suited to move into opening new accounts. I'm just giving you an example. And it might just give you that temporary financial boost that you were looking for. On the flip side, it could be that and more. It could be that somebody comes in and says, have you ever considered working in sales? I think you'd be a really good fit at my company. We have an opening. Don't tell anybody, but here's my card. It could be, hey, I know that you like yoga just through a conversation. I'm taking a yoga class on Saturday night. You should come. You might really enjoy it. I'd love to see you there. You go to the yoga class and fall in love with yoga and decide to become a yoga teacher. You go to the yoga class, you meet someone who works at another bank and says, we're hiring here and I think you'd be a great fit. I could go on and on. This is how it works. Some people are going to say, okay, that sounds really simple, Carrie. That's not always how it works. It really does work that way. It isn't always simple. Sometimes it takes more time than time in a construct than what we really would prefer. But I brought up perspective earlier for a reason. Sometimes it takes us getting to a very low point in our lives to be fed up with where we're at, to move into acceptance, or to move into a new space of saying, I deserve XYZ, or I am confident that I will find my place at another job, whatever it might be. You guys, there's a lot of options. They're all coming in a rainbow of ways. And I'm going to do another video on rainbow and kind of what that means. But it's not just one place is kind of the point that I'm making about all of this. So I gave you several examples. By shifting your perspective about where you are in your place of employment or employer or business owning, by being of service in that moment, it makes the universe serve you because you are the universe. And it changes the whole perspective about how you see things. So you might have gone into work really miserable, which we've all done, and thought, oh, this person, so-and-so, judge, changes the mathematics, as I talked about in one of my other videos, and all of a sudden, what was coming your way is now deflected and saved for a later date and time when you are in a higher vibration to then receive it. So I'm bringing that up on purpose because sometimes it takes a long time because we keep deflecting what's being offered to us because we are not in a place of receiving or accepting. Instead, we're in a place of resistance. So we all have heard that term, what you resist will persist. If you come into your workspace and you're constantly resisting the fact that you're there, then you will constantly be attracting more things to resist. You will find more people coming in to annoy you. You will find more issues perhaps with coworkers, perhaps with your actual job skills, etc., etc. It's all connected. I brought up the example of the promotion. It may not be exactly what you were wanting, but it might be just enough to bring you out of a space of, I'm in lack, I am not abundant, etc. In addition, I'm sharing this with you to be open to the synchronicities. I share this with everybody that I work with, to what is coming to you. Now, when I work with some people, I'm recognizing that they're not getting a lot of synchronicities for certain reasons. Other people I work with, I'm recognizing that they are receiving a lot of synchronicities. They're just not getting them. And other people are misinterpreting them. So that's a whole other video. But being open to what the universe is offering and not saying no to everything. Once in a while, stepping outside of your comfort zone. So that brings me back to rainbow. Sometimes we think, I want to do this. Other times we go, I don't know what I want to do. I just know that I don't want to do this any longer. Let me go back to that. If you know what you want to do and you're on that path, that's fantastic. That doesn't mean that that's the end result. I, for example, wanted to become a yoga teacher. When I was going through the yoga teacher training and I was on that path of yoga, that was it. I was in it, and then I branched out. I thought, oh, I'm going to do kids yoga. I got certified to teach children's yoga. And then I thought, oh, I want to teach yoga to middle school, which I did. Ironically, because I had a neighbor who worked at a middle school. Do you see where I'm going with this? I wanted to branch out and create my own yoga business. I met a friend who had a daughter who wanted to do children's yoga, and I did a few classes with her and had kids come to these classes and moms drop off the kids for yoga. I look back on that now, and when I was in it from that perspective, things were happening and falling into place for me, but when I was in it, I didn't see it that way. I was in a place of lack and how am I going to support myself teaching yoga? Because I was thinking, oh, the business is saturated. Everybody's a yoga teacher. Everybody wants it for free. limiting beliefs, judgment about the yoga community, and that was what limited me from seeing that abundance was coming in. I just wasn't recognizing it for what it was. But part of that was because I really didn't want to just be a yoga teacher. So that was the resistance to that abundance, because deep down there were other things I wanted to do, but I kept thinking, I have to just do yoga. That's it. I have to make this work. And I wasn't seeing that the universe was pulling me. Yoga was just a stepping stone for me to branch out into what I'm doing now. And that's a whole other video. But I'm sharing this with you so you guys can see sometimes. And then on a sidebar, if you're offered something and you turn it down because it doesn't feel right, there will be other opportunities that will present themselves if you're open to it. They may lead you down a slightly different timeline, and they may lead you down a slightly different path, and it may seem like you're not going in the right direction, but again, everything comes back around full circle. So that's just, I hope that makes sense about a little bit about synchronicity, a little bit about being open-minded to what's being laid at your doorstep. And I'll talk more in synchronicity at the end of this. So I just want to touch briefly on, this is a lot of jobs, careers. And let's say, for example, okay, so this is kind of leading me into talking about, you know what, I kind of think I'm interested in X, Y, Z, or I really don't know what I'm interested in. So let's start with, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm here, I'm going to stay at my job, but I want to start working my way into a different path. Well, you may not have to. If you're in a place that you kind of like and there's other potentials there for you to just be open about, that might be your step to catapult you into your growth. If you work in a corporate environment, for example, there may be other departments or other placements that you can find yourself finding joy in. See what appeals to you. See what synchronicities are coming through. See what conversations are being had, and be open to see what other people are suggesting. It might be another corporation might be the answer, because that corporation is thriving, forward-thinking, and a new energy and not the old energy. It could be something as simple as you saying, you know what, I'm going to go to this company because I can see that they care and that they're interested in the expansion of their company in a positive way. Whereas the older energy place, your skin crawls to go there. And it might be something simple as that. But I'm bringing in, the next step is, okay, I need to move on, and I don't know what I want to do. So you've got to ask yourself, where is your bliss, joy, passion? If you're not feeling any of those things, emotions, and you're just cut off from those, you have to start with going within. And that's another video entirely. You have to go within. And, you know, I talk about that with people that I work with, journaling, and that's a whole other video. But let's say you think, okay, I really like food. We all really like food. But let's say you enjoy food and you really feel like that could be something for you. And I'm just going to show you how much is connected with food, so that we're being invited not to be one-minded. If, for example, I might say, well, if you really like food, why don't you go into that area? And somebody might say, well, I could never be a chef. Well, right there is a limiting belief, number one. And number two is, why does it mean you have to become a chef? So maybe make a bubble chart. I love my bubble charts. And look around the area of food, which I kind of did here. What excites you about food? Perhaps instead of becoming a chef, you could go and become a nutritionist, or get into the study of how food affects the body. Perhaps go into conscious eating. I have a friend, Alyssa, who her passion is consciousness about your eating in the form of food disorders and addressing how that affects your body and how to move forward and through an eating disorder. And it's very powerful, and it's very amazing that she found that as her niche, and she's helped so many people. That's a perfect example of following a passion and combining multiple layers. So it doesn't just have to be about cooking food. Perhaps it's about you love tea and you make your own tea and you put together your tea packages and you bring them into the corporate office that you work at and you say, hey guys, I'm selling this tea. If you guys want to buy some, I'll bring it by once a month, and you can start there. And you could go so many places with that. Brownies, gluten-free food, vegan food. Perhaps it's about starting a website on awareness based around food. Perhaps it's a blog or a journal that you can introduce as an awareness around the way food is processed. It doesn't mean you have to go out and make a movie about it. It can be something as simple as holding a group, a consciousness group. Get together with some friends and talk about it and offer, everybody bring something to a potluck at your corporate or not corporate place of conscious foods and have everybody talk about why this recipe is conscious and play out from there and create maybe a group around that. Now, I'm not obviously getting into the financial aspect of it. This is more about following your bliss. Once you start to follow your bliss, the money will come. The abundance will come. It's not necessarily, I'm not saying, oh, the money is going to fall out of the sky and you'll be... Abundance is energy. It's about the heart. If you're doing something that you're passionate about and you're bringing it to others, that is going to shift your timeline. It'll shift you into another dimension. And all of a sudden, what was existent before in the old timeline is no longer prevalent. Now you're in a new place with new opportunities and new bridges, new connections. You'll meet someone that you never would have met before had you have not explored these opportunities. You'll have a conversation with someone about your recipe, about your tea, about your passion, and go from there. Maybe you are passionate about all of this and you want to create a t-shirt with funny sayings for vegans. Maybe you want to start a platform for vegans. I'm using vegans as an example. It could be all kinds of things, gluten-free, chocolate, but real chocolate. You know, what is it exactly? It doesn't have to be one thing. It can be many. Maybe your passion is about juicing and the benefits of juice. And, you know, you want to start a little juicing stand or create a station at work where you have fresh juice available or bring in a representative from a company to provide those and you can get a percentage of the profits. I could go on and on. What I'm finding and I'm going to get to eventually is the new energy is about community. It is about a rainbow, not just one color. It's about coming together to create a new paradigm and to work around that, to create a community of organizations, a beehive, if you will, of vibratory soul groups, to create new guideposts, to create new standards, to create new job opportunities, not the old system. So these are all ways to create new job opportunities. So I'm back on conscious eating. But remember, I'm talking maybe using somebody who works at a corporate environment as an example. And some people are going to go, well, I don't have time, Carrie, to just go out and cook something or make tea bags. It's a lot of work. It doesn't have to be. If you have passion for something, you'll have time for it somewhere. And if you don't have that now, if you're open to it and you're changing that vibration, you might just have to go back and create a meditative space for yourself. Take that hot bath, and maybe that's all you have time for. That's okay. By changing your vibration and giving yourself the gift of an hour of meditation, an hour of yoga class, or an hour in the bathtub with meditation, it will then allow these creative ideas and bursts to come into your vocabulary, reality. In addition to that, it again shifts your vibration so that all of a sudden something will open up for you and you'll get a gift of a day off or a cancellation that you might have been disappointed in might then become an opportunity to utilize that time to work on something that makes you feel good. I'm giving this all as an example of synchronicity. So, conscious eating. It might be local. Maybe you start to create a passion for local restaurants and get everybody together and say, we're going to visit this new local restaurant, and whatever you sell at your company, you want to work together with the local business owners to connect and raise community awareness. Doesn't have to be around conscious eating. I'm using that as an example. Now I'm showing back to conscious eating because, as you guys have maybe already been able to tell, I'm all over the place, but I'm not. I'm tying it together in a circle, in a bubble, because that might be what you're passionate is food, but you work in a corporate place, tying all this in. So, and let's say that leads into conscious eating disorders, how to be healthy. Maybe you're just really into color and you want to talk about the foods and the colors and the chakras and the effects of color in eating, and you want to bring that through. Excuse me. Maybe it's clean, the cleanliness of the food. Maybe your passion is organic. I already brought up local. Maybe it's green and you want to get that, I could go on and on. Maybe green goes into planting a garden. Maybe it's you can somehow set up a community garden in your neighborhood. Maybe you have a little extra plot of land and you can set up with 5 of your neighbors and say, I would like to start a community garden. And you then create a blog about your community garden. And then you start to donate your produce to a local homeless shelter. And you then bring awareness to this to the local news, which then starts reporting a positive news story about the community that you're creating. You see where I'm going with this? I'm trying to trigger activations and ideas within you to show that there's so much more than just this. Gardening might have something to do with bringing it into a school. That's your passion. You want to garden, but you don't have room for it. Find a plot of land or ask someone that does have it and see if you can't set that up. Perhaps it's doing it at a school and creating a space for gardening at a school, talking to the local, I think it's 4-H club. And I could go on and on. Now I'm going into disorders and health. Maybe you're already in the field of doctors, nurses, healthcare providers, pharmaceuticals, and let's just say technology based around all of this. And you really want to get involved with the doctors on how to improve their health. I could go on and on. Maybe you're a yoga teacher and you'd like to get in to help doctors to be less stressed, and you create a group just for doctors and nurses. Maybe you are or doing that at your corporate job and you think, I really love yoga, I like what I do, I make good money, I'm happy where I'm at, but I just need to squeeze in a little more yoga into my life. I wonder if we could get a yoga teacher in here or some type of stretching half-hour session for everybody and to improve the benefit of our entire team or our entire corporation. In Japan, they exercise at lunch. You could get somebody in there to do Tai Chi, get the corporate environment more. It would benefit everybody. Looking at the needs of the hospital, you know, setting up space for healthcare providers to provide themselves with space. You know, again, it doesn't have to be corporate. It can be a hospital that offers these services. It can be somebody that comes into the hospital and just brings them something to make them feel good within reason. It might be flowers, you know, it might be whatever. I'm just throwing different ideas in. Volunteering is, of course, at the top of the list to find where you can be of the highest service. Volunteer. Do something that benefits. And if you don't have the time for volunteering, but you still want to be of service, again, I'm going to go back to being of service where you're at by being the highest light that you can be in the environment that you're in and the people that you're provided access to access, right? To access and create that connection with. Coming back to this, maybe your passion is sleep, the brain, the heart. You know, you can go talk about these things. You can take classes about these things. You can maybe start a blog about these things if this is what your area of expertise is. Or you could get a group of people together that are nurses to talk about their feelings and what they've seen on the floor and how they can work through what they've been working through. That's a sidebar. Office space and an environment. So maybe your job is a decorator, or you want to be a decorator. I talked about this in one of my videos about job ideas. And it could be that rather than just decorating the place, you might connect with artists who are drawing light language. And perhaps the light language, then you're a decorator, or you're a doctor, or you're a nurse, or you're a massage therapist, or you're a nail salon owner, or I could go on, whatever business you're in, you start bringing in conscious art. Beautiful art out there. You guys, I have people that have emailed me art, and I'm just amazed at the talent. And maybe that's something I'll end up doing, is doing a community light worker art Facebook page, or maybe I'll let you guys do that because realistically I'm not in that place to do that. But if you're an artist, start a community Facebook page about, you know, light worker art, and reach out to doctors and dentists and people who maybe are awake or aren't awake, and just say, you know, this is my art. It's meant to inspire, and it holds healing in it. Schools, daycares, so on and so forth. This also goes for musicians. You know, there's the place that I signed up to volunteer, and I haven't quite made it there yet, for hospice. They have music therapists that go in and play music for people that are in hospice. They have massage therapists and Reiki masters that go in and work with people who are in hospice. That's something that's always an option to volunteer to do. But you could start your own music therapy. You may become a music therapist. Or you could offer workshops if you're a musician and assist other people to learn conscious music or whatever it might be. I attended a drum circle class that I was really hesitant to go to at a spa. They offered it as a workshop, and I loved it. It was so much fun. There's a lot of places that there's consciousness workshops popping up at spas and hotels, at hospitality places. You know, you've got the paint and sip places that are really huge right now. Maybe going and volunteering or becoming part of a paint and sip, or starting your own paint and sip, and you learn how to paint light language, or that's what you guide everybody else to paint, and see who you can activate. Guys, lots of fun stuff. It doesn't have to be alcohol. You could provide water that's been blessed by shamans. I'm serious. Decor. So I'm bringing that in. Feng shui, artwork, you know, so on and so forth. You see how this is all tied together. Again, this is community. It's not just about, I'm a decorator and I have to land this job, this job, this job. It's thinking outside of the box and asking, how may I be of service as a decorator? How can I expand this to the next level? Or I want to be a decorator. I want to be an artist. I want to share my work. Where am I feeling inspired to share this with? Obviously, art festivals and things like that too. I also wrote down products. So there's a lot of people out there that make jewelry, handmade soaps and oils and things like that. And you guys all know that there's communities. You can go on Etsy and there's things that you can do. But you could also just offer them as gifts and post them on Facebook and share with people what you're doing. And, you know, if you make a gift basket for maybe an office as a thank you, or if you're a real estate agent and you really, your passion isn't real estate, it's actually soap making, that can be your gift to your new clients. You can put it in the houses that you're staging or whatever your product is. I'm using these all as examples to braid, to thread, to weave in with the old career path or the career path where you're not feeling 100% excited about, to put some excitement into it. The same thing with writing, journaling, blogging, all of that. You know, maybe writing something out in light language, framing it, and giving it to someone as a gift. I could go on and on. This might lead to them hanging it someplace and people go, oh, who did that? Wow, that's amazing. How did they do that? I'd love to learn how to do that. So on and so forth. I'm going to come back to the animals. You know, maybe the passion, I come back to food. Of course, maybe the passion is animals. Again, volunteering in a shelter, becoming a foster parent for a shelter, bringing your animal to the hospital or to play with children. Of course, that's a whole other ball of wax, but it could be working with animals. You know, you could maybe decide that I love animals and you want to go work with animals and work part-time on a farm. There's lots of, that's a whole other weaving, and I'm not as familiar with all of that, so I'd have to come back into flow about that, but I'm being guided to talk about teaching because I don't want to make this video much longer. Teaching, parenting, okay, so teaching in children obviously goes hand in hand. You're guided to teach whatever it is you're being guided to teach. I don't know what I want to teach. I just know I want to teach. Let's first start with you're already a teacher of some sort. Again, teachers are challenged right now with all of the things that are going on with each individual student. But again, it's all about bringing that energy into the space that they're teaching in. It's all about them going into that different perspective to then raise the frequency of everyone in that classroom. And I'm not just talking about, I'm talking university, middle school, grade school, daycare, painting, whatever you're teaching, okay? But in addition to that, you can tie in the consciousness with whatever you're doing. If you're an art teacher, you know, you might feel inspired to teach about, not necessarily writing light language. I don't know what the legalities would be around that, but activating artwork that is involving flow and form and things like that. Parenting, and it starts with the parents. So if you're a parent and you have children that that's where your passion is, getting involved with the groups in the form of activities, projects, volunteering to go camping or to be a parent at a field trip, All of these things are part of what being a parent is about, but you could shift that to another level and start creating conscious interactions. So, the kids get together and they start to paint what they see after closing their eyes and visualizing what looks happy to them. And I'm just using this as an idea. And they get together and they do a painting project. So we have sip and paint for parents. Kids might be, paint and talk. They get to talk about their artwork and how they felt painting it. I really thought it was cool. I went to a Cry-On event and there were a couple of children there, which was awesome. And while we broke up into groups and talked, they drew what things were representative to them. It was really cool. So there's a lot of things you can do with kids. That's a whole other video. But that comes into line with, if you're passionate about children, that can branch off into, is it ADD and hyperactivity? Is it autism? Is it special needs? Is it all children in general? Is it young children, older children? Is it children, indigos, or I guess new crystal children? Is it involving daycare, school, after-school activities? All of this can tie together. And is it teaching yoga children? Is it teaching children how to cook? Is it working with your hands with clay or something in a children's class? I could go on and on. Just sometimes by you exploring this aspect of yourself or working with your own children in what it is you're passionate about, that may be enough just to shift and raise your vibration and put you into your happy place. It doesn't necessarily mean that any of this has to be done for a career. It may be just by branching into these other ideas, it then makes you happy or helps you find your inner child or realize your passion. And just by branching out into all of these things, you might then go, wow, I never even considered this. So, again, you don't necessarily have to just go down one track. It's not a one-track mind anymore. It's a multi-dimensional track. No-track mind is what it's all boiling down to. Last but not least, I brought down transportation and community. Being a personal assistant, a conscious personal assistant, neighborhood assistant. Maybe your neighbor goes to the VA hospital and needs a ride. And you go to the VA hospital and you realize, gosh, they could really use a little light. And so you're there and you send a blessing of love, or you're a Reiki healer and you send out Reiki energy to that group. Or you bring your neighbor dinner who doesn't cook for themselves. These little things, again, you don't have to get paid to do it to be of service. Now, perhaps it becomes a regular thing for you and somebody says, I love your cooking. I'd love to pay you to make me some meals. Not that you would accept the money. I'm just throwing things out there. Transportation. Perhaps your passion is cleaning up the environment and assisting the elderly or being a compassionate companion. Perhaps your passion is beach cleanups and cleaning up trash. You could then create t-shirts, start a blog, start a movement, and start a non-for-profit, and the money all goes back into recycling plastic from the beach and making beautiful artwork and creations, or to the Turtle Foundation. I could go on and on. So, last but not least, synchronicity. So, in all of this, just by you going into that space of going and doing the beach cleanup or having that conversation with someone will lead you into another activation, another opening, a portal. The future is what I'm hearing. So you may not realize it now, but that is a seed planted for your future. And it's sprouting and you just aren't seeing it until you get into feeling it. And then a light bulb goes off and somebody mentions, hey, you could really start a community garden if you wanted to. I have a little plot of land that I don't even use. I mean, it literally happens that way, and all of a sudden you go, okay. So I also want to touch briefly on sometimes this will open up for you, and then you'll go, ooh, that's not what I want to do. And that's great too. Because even though you thought that's what you wanted to do, and now you're realizing, oh, I don't really think I want to teach yoga for a full-time profession. That's okay, because it led you to meeting Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so who now want you to travel with them and be their personal assistant, nanny, caretaker, whatever. I could go on and on and on. I didn't really touch too much on computers. For those of you tech people out there, and I didn't touch much on science and math. Probably because I'm not really familiar with any of those industries, but let me just go into flow just for a moment. In the World Wide Web, in technology, a lot of people everybody wants to start an app, everybody wants to start a non-for-profit, everybody wants to start. It's okay. You could start one too. None of it's saturated if it's coming from here, and you're guided to do it. So I'm using an example. Start with yourself. Again, all of this is work on yourself. Meditate, do yoga or Tai Chi or some type of movement, Qigong. Eat the right foods that make you feel good. Love yourself. Care for yourself. And not in a selfish way where you put everybody else, cast everybody else aside, but in a self-loving way so that you may be refreshed and renewed to share your gifts with others. When I went through cranial-sacral training, one of the workshops, there was somebody who was an engineer, I believe, and they were working on algorithms, and they had been totally stumped about this algorithm that they were trying to figure out. And they had the cranial sacral work done. They were going through this workshop. And the next day, he comes in and says, I figured out the algorithm last night because I did this, because the cranial sacral I opened to it. I'm using that as an example because sometimes it can just be something as simple as you going and getting a massage, laying on the table, and having that light bulb because you're moving the energy around that was sitting there the whole time, that was waiting to be opened. So ultimately, all of this comes from within, and there is no wrong or right way to go to choose. You're not going to be wrong if you choose to become something and then change your mind later. And perhaps by rolling into that new career path, you're taking everything with you from that other experience into this new experience, and you're building on it, and it's the building blocks of matter, right? They matter. They make up what you do know, what you don't know, what you wish to be, what you no longer wish to be, and it all builds you up in this architecture to then expand from there. So, okay, and I'm being guided to talk a little bit more about computers, robotics, artificial intelligence, and the science aspect, the left brain mechanical stuff. If that is your field, go into the heart with all of it. Because when you're setting up algorithms, working with artificial intelligence, working in biomolecular chemistry and all of this, intention is energy. You're working on things that are affecting the collective in such a big way. If you're working with telecommunications and you're working with the internet and you're working with the phone cables and all of this, again, it's intention and it's conscious involvement so that the opportunities will present themselves for you to be of service in those areas. and pay attention to synchronicities. If you're guided and you're being asked to work on a project and it doesn't feel right, ask for guidance on it. You will get it in the form of synchronicity, and you can then perhaps mold it into your own format so that it is able to fit into the higher energy where you are existing, where you're choosing to exist. I was just guided to talk about that briefly, and I'm going to end on this note. I know this has been a very long video. I hope this has helped somebody out there watching this to just kind of be open to all of the waves that are coming in and recognizing that you are a rainbow, not just one color. You're many frequencies, and you will oscillate in and out of these frequencies and opportunities until you land and connect with something here to then activate you to a fuller potential of what opportunities are available to you to completely support you in your emotional, financial, physical well-being. In love and light, namaste.